well, I guess we should go. We should go. We should probably go and find ourselves here. So, lovelies, here we are. Here we are. I think we're here. I think we might be here. Now, forgive me if I'm a little bit all over the place, because I'm a little bit all over the place as normal. I'm using new things I haven't always used before, and I'm trying to pull together something which is a little bit more unusual for me. I usually like to sit over there in front of my stuff, so I've got something to fiddle with, whereas this time I have nothing. I'm going to sit here in front of my desktop computer so that we can talk about products, and I've got sort of access to web pages and YouTube and stuff like that. So that's the plan. That's the plan. Sound is everything's good. Great, good, thanks. That's a good start, because I'm a bit confused, a bit dazed, a bit befuddled, but we'll get to that in a moment. So let me just give us a minute. I've got no background music, or have I got any background? No, I haven't got any background music to give you just at the moment, but everything appears, if you can hear this, then that's awesome. That means that's working. Why is that not working over? I'm not going to worry about that over there at the moment. Anyway, welcome. Just give us a minute, and then we'll get started. Oh goodness! Right. Where am I? What am I doing? I've got no content. That's awesome. So switch account. Better. Right, just trying to find my way to this video so I can actually look at the comments and stuff like that. Let's click on there. Let's go there. Let's mute that out. There you are, my lovelies. Great. Right, so yeah, dazed and confused. That's the way to be today. Is that even remotely in focus? Yeah, it'll do. It'll do. I could go a little bit. I could tighten in a little bit, couldn't I? Like that. See, I hate seeing my eyes over there. I'd like my eyes to be looking at the camera, but then I'm not looking at what I'm doing if I'm looking at the camera. If you know what I mean. Right, so good evening. Welcome. Welcome. You're very welcome here. Sorry it's been a little bit of a while, but as many of you probably know, I've had a spot of the old COVID, which has not been nice, but I'd just like to start by saying I'm okay. I'm getting there. I'm not fully restored, I don't think yet, but I'm doing all right, and I'd really like to thank everyone for their lovely messages, their kindness. I wasn't actually looking for sympathy, particularly when I posted a picture of myself looking a bit worse for wear. It was more along the lines of, I haven't heard of anybody having COVID for ages, and I think this is probably important. And so I thought I'd better break this kind of the silence of it and just say, this is horrible. It really is horrible. And people should be aware of that, because we tend to forget, you know. People seem to have given up on the whole thing, and that's a shame, because it's pretty bloody awful. It is. But let's not dwell on that. I've got through it all right. I'll be happy to answer questions about it if you have questions. That's fine. So the purpose of this evening is because I really lack the energy to put together a video for the end of October. I thought we could spend a little bit of time talking about product, talking about it, seeing what we feel about it. Well, I feel about it, of course, but perhaps what we feel about it. We can talk about a few bits and pieces. We can fiddle around. I've got lots of things sitting around that I could show you just for fun and chat about if you like. Obviously, in this environment of chat, we're always a couple of minutes out of sync with each other, or so it seems. So we'll just struggle on with that. There's no solution for it. So you may ask a question that I answer 5 minutes after you've asked it, or it might be completely irrelevant by that time, or I haven't noticed anything in the chat, which is also completely possible. So with these things, we just work our way through it. And if you've got something really important you want to say, then say it a few times if necessary, just to get yourself heard. Yeah. That's good. Everyone is welcome. Everyone is welcome to express a view. Also, don't be surprised if I'm dismissive or short with anything that I feel might not be accurate or something. But then I tend to be just a little bit cheeky. So please don't feel insulted if I say something weird or silly or sarcastic to you. That's just kind of the way I am in these sorts of chats. And I mean you no harm. I love you all intensely. It's just a bit of banter, you know. So that can happen. Just get rid of that. Okay. Thanks, Mark. Yeah, I'm looking all right. I don't know that I'm going to last the usual couple of hours, but we'll see how we go. So I haven't spoken for long periods of time for a little while now. So I haven't done any videos for like 2 or 3 weeks. So I might just completely dry up. I do have a beer, which I'll open in a moment. So I've just actually got to the bottom of my bottle of water. So yeah, there's that. So what should we do? Well, first of all, just to kick this off, you might notice this thing here, and I just want to give a quick shout out to Rode, who have provided me with this weird microphone. This thing here. Look, see, I've got it on a wangy thing. Look, I look like a proper pro audio YouTuber, don't you think? Which is awesome. I mean, I know it's not one of those SM80 57s or whatever it is that you're supposed to have stuffed into your face like I don't know, some kind of limpet, but it's something slighter and cooler than that, and I'm really enjoying it mostly. And I'm going to do a bit of a video on it because I think it's a useful podcasting streaming type situation, and through using it I've come to understand a number of things, because I think we get very hung up. I get very hung up on things like ASIO and how we cope with all of that, and in trying to aggregate audio devices. So how on earth do you get a USB microphone to work within an audio environment that already has an audio system going on? That has always sort of boggled me, and is one of the reasons why I've never looked into getting a USB mic before. But actually having now used one, I kind of understand, although all the flaws that I thought were there are definitely there. And I spent the last hour trying to get my video streaming software to understand both the microphone and, hang on, where's my sustain pedal gone? And a bit of that, which is coming out of my other software. This is me playing. Can I look? Can you see that? That's me playing. We'll talk about Rhodes in a minute. Oh no! Okay. That was weird. See, I've never liked a microphone that you have to stick in your face, but this, because previously I've used my C3000, which I don't have to hand, which I tend to have sat a little bit further away, which picks stuff up, which is cool. But with this, I think I can be a slightly more focused, and if it has to sit there in the way, then it just has to sit there in the way, and I'm just having to deal with it. So there we go. Ken, you decided on the King Goblin, have you? Goodo. So, hi, Eleni, Mark, hi, Knobs and Strings. No, I was reading Knobs and Knobs earlier. Oh, sorry, I suddenly thought that might have been you, but never mind. You're very welcome nonetheless. Ian, good to see. I wonder if we're all out of sync with each other. Yeah, probably. Art. Is the wave state good for an Uvi? No, I don't think so. I think it's highly complicated. I mean, you should go to a shop and play with one. Wave state is a whole bunch of kind of little waves stuck together in a row that goes, so it makes lots of groove type sounds, lots of continuous roundy sorts of sounds. I think it's a slightly weird one. The mod wave, on the other hand, which is a bit more focused on being wavetable, it acts, in my view, a bit more like a synth. and is still extremely modulatable in a rhythmic way, I think is a better choice personally. But then I've not really spent any time with the wave state. But there you go, just sticking that out there. Eldorado, that's a good name. There was a soap opera called Eldorado many years ago, which was just not successful, but it's very good that you're here nonetheless. Yeah, the Droid family of programmable CV modulation Eurorack modules. Yes, I think they're fantastic. I think what's his name does a brilliant job on all of that. I love the look of it. I love the strange colors behind the gold front end. And the idea of it, I think, is a bit mind-boggling. But I'm in two minds about it, in that on one side I can see that there's some really special, awesome technology going on, and that's fascinating. But it also works against my slight aversion to multifunctional Eurorack modules, which often just drive me a bit nuts, it has to be said. And I just really, really like the one knob per function kind of thing. And when things start getting complicated, I just don't know if I can be asked. I can't be bothered with editing text files or you know, that kind of things. You have to do a little bit of programming to get the Droid system to work. But at the same time, I do completely appreciate that that's a phenomenal system, and by itself that would make it interesting, excuse me, to look into and to do a video on, that kind of thing. Interesting. Paul, hi from Cornwall. Well done for getting all the way over here. I mean, that's miles away. It takes a real full day of driving to get anywhere near Cornwall from here. So yeah, well done. Good effort on that. Joseph, hi, good to see you. Fly. And all that kind of thing. Yeah. I'm terrible at pronunciation, so do forgive me. Hi Purple, good to see you. Steve, great. Yeah, good. Skulldrazer, I don't think I'm setting any trends. Yeah, no, it does make it look professional. It really does. And look what else it does. Are you ready? Are you ready? Damn it. Can you hear that? Because I can't. You probably can. No, I'm not convinced that you can. You'll think to yourself, what on earth is he doing? Never mind, forget it. Let's move on. Let's put that away. Yeah, I mean, there's something about, sorry, just going back to USB mics for a second, that largely in video, you don't really need that real-time response. You don't need that low latency response, because you're just streaming in different microphones in different places, and you're not really having to monitor those in real time unless you're monitoring them locally. And that's the key. I'm always trying to get low latency with everything, which you don't necessarily need, although I did, and I've had to go to do some flips and, and all sorts of things to get that to work. Now, just so you know, that every time I play the keyboard, I will wobble my head in a jazz style. So you know that it's me playing and not some other video. Right, got it? Good. Right, so let me open my beer, and then we'll crack on with the first product, which I've got a list of somewhere, because I did get as far as making a list for my Molten Monthly. I just never, as I say, every time I sat down to try to think about making a video, I just went, oh no, I just can't, I can't. It's this weird heaviness. I mean, it's not that I was pinned to my bed or anything. It was just sitting up at my desk here. You just felt like you were being dragged into the floor. It's very, very weird. You couldn't concentrate. Whereas I could go back to bed and sit propped up on a pillow and write the odd article for Gear News without too much bother, or watch movies to my heart's content, I have to say. Oh, now that's better. So, mouse clicking, is that all you could hear? Yeah, I'm not going to mess with it now. Just because the Rode microphone has this panel, and it's got a few buttons you can press that create, you know, your outro track and some laughter and silly noises, that kind of thing. But in order for me to make that work back through here, through the loop back of the thing, it's just, I can't bear with it. So let's at least do one product, because I'm not sure how long I'm going to last for all of this. So what did I have at the beginning? Oh, look, this is one I've got. Should I? Is that all right? I get myself in a knot over what I am allowed to show and not show. I know. I'll do it. Okay. Bear with me. Let's do it on the website kind of thing. So, how am I best to do all this? Maybe if I do a search, does that work? Oh no, it doesn't. Hang on. Keyboard enabled. So what we're going to do is I'm going to bring this over here. And look, there's still me in the bottom. Hello. And there's the Gear News browser, which is essentially where I get all my news from, because that's where I put all my news. See, why is that not going to... Oh, there it is going to search. There we go. So the first thing we're going to talk about is the new Arturia Mini Fuse. Gosh, how exciting. Can you believe how exciting this is? So yeah, what the story is here is that Arturia have created some mini audio fuses. Let's call them mini fuses, shall we? They are, well, you know what they are? They are the same as everybody else's. That's really all I can say. Now, I love Arturia. I'm going to do something else with Arturia in a minute, which is over here. That's probably going to annoy them also. But I love Arturia. I think they're a fabulous company. I think they make some great stuff. But the mini fuses, I mean, my reaction to this is that for the last couple of years, I've been writing reviews on little audio interfaces for Sound on Sound magazine. And I seem to be the guy who does the piddly little audio interfaces. And it's like, that's all right. I'm into that. I don't mind writing about them. And it actually, because I do a lot of them, it gives me the opportunity to do some proper comparisons and to say whether one is actually better than another. And I have to say that all these around about 100 quid audio interfaces, they're all the same. They're just the same. You have to really work hard to find something in particular that's special about any of them, really. So for these Audio Fuse ones, here we go. I'm not going to worry about whether I'm in the way or not. There's three, for God's sake, three. There's a Mini Fuse 1, which is if you're just by yourself, you've only got a microphone and possibly a guitar. That's it, but only one at a time. So you're not going to sing and play at the same time. You're just got one thing going on. That's all you want, and you're plugging straight in. So that's a Mini Fuse 1. Mini Fuse 2, you've got two inputs. Could also be in black. Did I mention that? You got two inputs, so you could have guitar and mic, or two guitars, or two mics for that matter. Stereo pair, that might be exciting. And for that, you've got a little bit more monitoring with a knob, so you can switch between either input monitoring or software monitoring, that kind of thing. This is exactly the same as, what other ones have I done recently? Something like the Moog M4, M2s, something like the Audient ones, the IDs and the Evos. I can't think which ones I've done. Oh, the M Audio, entry-level M Audio ones. They do exactly the same. And there's lots and lots of these little interfaces which are in this kind of form factor. Trying to find something that was unique and different about the Mini Fuse was really, really hard. And I've written a review for for Sound on Sound also. So I'm not going to give the whole game away, I don't suppose. But they're decent, relatively good quality, the same as everybody else's, trying desperately to try to find a unique selling point. Now, the fact that they've got like a 9-sided shape on the volume knob, I mean, that's interesting. So I kind of mentioned that a little bit. They do have a USB hub on the back, which is interesting, as in that's useful because you can plug that in and then plug a MIDI keyboard in. So that is a really good unique selling point. But otherwise, they just kind of are what they are. Whereas the Audio Fuse, yeah, their desktop one with the big knob on, I have one here, and the Audio Fuse Studio, they do have a lot of unique things about them which are fantastic and really set them apart from the crowd. These ones, nothing. However, they do come with some really good plugins. So perhaps the thing that's particularly good about this is that they put in Arturia put in some of their really very good plugins, which are going to help you get a decent sound on your input. They put in one of those compressor, vocal type things, and those are excellent. And so perhaps that's what you're getting, and those are worth a couple of £100, and you're getting them for free within £100 audio interface. In fact, if you were after those effects, it's cheaper to buy the audio interface and throw that away just so you get the effects. So, you know, those are your things. So that's the first one. We got one out of the way. Look at that. We did one, ticked one off. That's fantastic. I'll just give you a moment to have a comment on that while I pour my beer. All depends on the drivers, says Moog. See, we don't even know what your name is. Let's call you Mr. Lee. Yeah, they did just work, Ian. You do just plug them in and they do work. They're very good. I mean, the other thing that they do have, which I think is vital these days, is they have a loopback driver, which is very, very useful for connecting together bits of software, which is exactly what I was trying to do tonight, which the original Audio Fuse does not have. So I've actually had to unplug my Audio Fuse, and I plugged in a Mode 2 M4 instead, because it has the loopback, and that's enabling me to do that. So there we go. That's a vital thing. But as I say, everybody else has those also. So it's no longer the sort of unique selling point that perhaps it once was. Oh, got a few fireworks going on outside. Oh, Mr. or Mrs. Science, the M4 pops and clicks on you in Windows 10, even with 256 samples. Well, that's going to be down to your computer. I don't think it's going to be down to the audio interface necessarily. It's going to be down to the chipset that you're plugging it into. You might want to try it through a powered USB hub, or just through some other different USB inputs on your system, because that shouldn't happen. It absolutely should not happen. However, USB chipsets are not all the same. And also there may be other things within your system which are causing a problem. So what I would recommend is to go to Google DPC latency. In fact, let me Google it just to make sure I've got the right thing going on. DPC. Ooh, what's that? Zen layer. So why is that not coming up? It always used to come up. I'm going to have to go via another way. Ah, no, I don't want to be buying things from Sweetwater. Okay, give me a link, somebody. Don't want Latency Mon, DPC latency issues. That's weird. That's not the right website. Oh, I've got myself in a scoring now. Where's that from? Well, anyway, here's some place that it's from. DPC latency checker. Now, is this what I want? No, I don't know that it is. No, okay, forget that. Going back, rewinding. So, what is this guy talking about? Everybody's saying, I want to go. See, the problem with the DPC latency checker on Windows 10 is that it's not reliable. It doesn't always work. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. And that used to be a great way of identifying if there's going to be clicks and pops, because it would show whether your system was capable of running something without clicks and pops or not. As I say, it's not down to the audio interface. This is down to other drivers within your system which are causing deferred procedure calls, which are holding on to the processor too long, which prevents the audio stream from being constant, and it causes a glitch. It's not the audio interface, it's the system as a whole. So how do we sort that out? you can't use a DPC latency checker anymore because it doesn't always work with Windows 10. Although I'm going to be checking into that again because I have a Surface Pro 8 here, which I will be doing all of this testing on as well. So the one that you could try is Latency Monitor here. Where's the chat? I'm just going to put this in here. Yeah, DPC latency checker, as I say, it's not reliable on Windows 10. You cannot rely on it. I've seen plenty of negative positives and positive negatives on that. So you can't do it. Latency Monitor, which I've just put a link to in the chat, is not as helpful, but it is also helpful. If you run that, it should be able to tell you whether your system can, don't even plug in the interface. It will tell you whether your system is capable of handling it in the first place. And if there is a problem, then that'll at least show you whether your system is capable of running audio without any problems, or if there are other problems in there, and so you're going to have to look into disabling drivers or removing other bits and pieces. It's not always straightforward, unfortunately, but you should absolutely be able to run an Mo2 M4 at like 64 samples without clicks. It should absolutely work. So I wouldn't put up with that, but you may find it's not the interface, it's your computer. Anyway, moving on. I don't know if that's for me. How does it compare to a 1010 Blue Box? I don't even know what that is. Ken, have you got an old Emu card? Is that what you've got? They were classic. They were fantastic. They were so over-featured and high quality for their price point. It was ridiculous. Andrew, you've missed so much, man. So much has been said already, but it's good to have you here. yeah, I'm on the mend. Thank you. I'm on the mend. I'm not all the way there yet, but I'm doing all right. Doing all right. What are my thoughts on using line in and out modules with the Nifty case? I don't think you have to, because it already has line out built in, but if you wish to, you can do. There you go. Okay, right, what's next on my list? In fact, while we're talking about audio interfaces, let's just take a sideways jump into the Universal Audio Volt. If I put Volt in there, is that going to come up with anything other than 1,000 different entries? Don't know, let's give it a go. The search on the Gear News website, I have to say, is terribly slow. Terribly slow. Come on. Maybe what I could do is start another one. Oh, no, here we go. Come down here, come down here. Oh, we'll get to that in a minute. And that. Oh, and that. I don't think we've got time for all of this. Volt interfaces. Yes, so talking about audio interfaces. Now, funnily enough, as the guy who does audio interfaces for Sound on Sound, as soon as I saw these, I got in touch and said, so yeah, send me the Volt ones. They look really interesting. They said, nah, Sam's going to do those. So as soon as something comes along that's interesting, like it has some extra vintageness about it, or it's Universal Audio, no, I don't get the chance to use those ones. So what are these? Well, on the first hand, you've got the good old-fashioned 1U type, horrible, can't get your fingers on the knobs kind of interface, the Volt 1 and the Volt 2. So again, a single input or a dual input. Excuse me. But all the same bits and pieces that we saw before on the Audio Fuse. And however, there is a unique feature in here somewhere, and that's this vintage knob. Do you see my mouse when I do? No, there's no reason why you'd see my mouse when I do that. So what I could, I could do, I know this way I could do, see, there must be a way I can probably do it. I haven't thought of it. So there's a vintage knob right over there. See that? Right. So the vintage knob in orange. Now what that does is it engages, see, I can't remember now. It engages something. Yeah, no, there's some kind of circuitry inside that emulates some old piece of Universal Audio console mixing desk. Some old piece of old rubbishy technology is stuffed in there on a little bit of circuit board. And if you engage that, it engages that thing and it gives you that little bit of warmth, that little bit of character and stuff to your audio. Brilliant. So rather than using a plugin, rather than using like Arturia, they've included a plugin with it. Some other ones have done something similar. So Universal Audio have stuck in an actual analog solid state circuit in here that is enabled by that vintage button. And that's very interesting. I would like to know what that sounds like. In fact, I mean, I do have a plan to do a roundup of audio interfaces because I have them knocking around the place from all these reviews that I've done. And I thought it would be interesting to put them all together and just do some side-by-side comparisons because they are so similar. It might be interesting just to stack them up, just to say, you know, the latency of this is that, this can do so much. Plugins, you know, run the same project on each one to see which one uses up the most CPU, do some recordings through each of them, that kind of thing. So I'd love to have a vault in order to do that. So if Universal Audio, if you are out there and you'd like to send me one of these in order to be included in this roundup of audio interfaces, that would be awesome. That would be awesome. Now there's another one after those two. They have these ones here. Now these, I have to say, look rather nice. They're quite big. They're quite chunky. Surprisingly so, I think. But the wooden ends are really nice. I'm enjoying that. And I much prefer a desktop audio interface rather than the little ones, even though, you know, I use the Moto M4 a lot, and that is exactly what I don't like. It is the 1U, let's get back over, the 1U interface with the knobs on the front, which are really fiddly if it's sitting on your desk. Whereas these, of course, are on your desk, but they have the knobs on the top, which is what you want. That's what you want. You want that, don't you? So there's a couple of those. The only thing it's missing, in my view, that's a shame, there's the bigger one, is if it had ADAT, it would be perfect. If you just had ADAT in and out, oh, that would just be fantastic. So what's different about these, other than the fact that it has more controls, is that it also has this 76 compressor. So you have the voltage circuit, and then you've got some compressor circuit as well built in to further give you punch and boost and niceness on your vocals and stuff coming in. So it's a very groovy box, and they're not terribly expensive either. They're not like the other UAD Apollo What's-Its, which tend to get a bit pricey. These are relatively affordable. So much so that I'm even thinking of buying one just to include it in the thing. If Universal Audio aren't out there and aren't able to send me one, then I might just have to get hold of one. I could do it on like one of those pretend I haven't used it and send it back after before 7 days kind of thing. I don't know, because I don't need another audio interface personally, but I would like to try it out. So I'd like to be able to see and hear that difference. So that's interesting. How much are they? The price is on here somewhere. Oh, there you go. There's a whole list of pricing. See, not terribly expensive. I mean, you would expect these are probably 50 euros more than the equivalent, I would say, on other audio interfaces, but they do have analog circuitry inside and compression. So yeah, interesting. Interesting, eh? Interesting. Do I have any other audio interfaces on my list? Just to get all those out of the way. I kind of do. NTO Steve, surely the UR22 Mark II comes with ASIO drivers. You really don't need to be slumming it with ASIO for all. Although ASIO for all is awesome, it is a hack, you know. it's a workaround. It's not the ideal solution. I'm pretty sure those Steinberg UR22s come with ASIO drivers. I'm pretty sure they must. That'll really, honestly, I promise it will help. Synth Addict, good to see you. Thanks. Yeah, I know that Sunday night gets a bit busy on live streaming. I appreciate that, but I've been doing the Sunday night thing, you know, once a month for many, many years, much longer than these other synthy shows. So, you know, I think it's impossible to fit yourself around everybody. So one just has to do what one has to do. And Sunday night seems to work for me. But who knows what I'll do in the future? We just don't know. I use the huge monitor knobs all the time, Ian. That's all I use because it tends to be over here, out of the way, and I have to be able to get to it and turn it. So that's absolutely vital on every audio interface that I use. I will not buy one that doesn't have a nice big grabbable monitor knob. So there we are. What was I doing? Oh yeah, iRig. So the iRig stream, I don't know if you remember that fella, was one of my biggest videos ever. I did a review of it because, you know, me and RK go back a long way, and they sent me one to try out, and I was right in the middle of, this was just, I think this happened just at the beginning of COVID, I think, and I was looking for doing my own live streaming, something like that. Anyway, the iRig stream came up, did a little video on it. It's had masses and masses of views. It's one of my biggest ever, along with the nuttiest questions you could ever imagine. But it's good. So I saw that they've just done 2 new ones. There's the Stream Solo and the Stream Pro. What can I tell you about them? Not a huge amount just yet, other than one has less stuff on it. So just very simple. It's already got the cable, plug out straight into your phone. Excuse me, via a proper adapter, of course, because it's never going to plug into your iPhone with that. And off you go. You're streaming. You just plug it in and you go. With the Pro, I think it has sort of better inputs and stuff. It's got the level that you've got on the original stream, but you've also got a proper mic input on an XLR connector, that kind of thing. So slightly better. So hopefully IK are going to send these to me so I can do more juicy videos on them, because I think what was helpful from what I did is that I actually did it. Now, I don't mean to be insulting of other reviewers or stuff, but often people talk about their gear. They get some piece of stuff sent to them, and they like take it out of the box and they talk about it, and they might plug it in if you're lucky, but that's usually shot with some other camera which is doing all this slow panning around, and you don't really see them go through the process of actually doing anything with it. I find that a lot. Whereas it seems obvious to me that if I've got an audio interface, the least I can do is show you how you use it and plug it in and then use it in a plugged in environment. And so I think why my video has been quite successful is simply that I plugged it into Facebook and I did a live stream there on the video and showed how that worked and showed a couple of ideas of routing other stuff in, and then fiddled around trying to get it to work with Instagram. You know, I went through the process, and I think that's really important. So that's what I believe I can bring to the world of YouTube, of these types of devices, particularly these ones, because they're so high. They're sort of big consumer devices. They're not necessarily people using these who are pro audio people. These are people who are running yoga clubs, or who are teaching, or are doing dance classes, or, you know, lecturing, or doing instruction and stuff, or performing over the internet. But they're not necessarily audio people. They just want to plug in something and have it work. And these are ideal for that kind of thing. Ideal. Enough of all that. Let's move on to something else. Well, NTO Steve, if ASIO for all works, then cool. I mean, I would never say go back to something that works worse just because you're supposed to. So if that works well for you, fine, absolutely. Fill your boots, mate. Fill your boots. But I mean, I always feel I have to mention it to somebody, because I have gone to a professional studio to do some recording, and there was a guy there who was running his his posh audio interface on Windows drivers, and he didn't blink an eye at the fact he hit record, and like a half sort of second and a half later it then started recording, because he didn't do any virtual instruments and he didn't do any monitoring through the software. He monitored through his enormous mixing desk. It never occurred to him that latency was an issue, so he'd never installed ASIO drivers. It's crazy. So, and he was a pro audio person, so I kind of think it's necessary to point it out when, because some people just don't, it's never occurred to them that there's something they need to install. Anyway, by the by, stories from the back. Okay. Yeah, something easy. Something easy. So, where's my list? Cherry Audio, are we interested in that? Cherry Audio. So they've had a couple of things. They've got a new thing coming as well. Did I spell that right? I can't actually see that from here. I wish I knew if that was actually searching or not. It drives me nuts. I'm just going to have to leave it. So yeah, Cherry Audio have got something just around the corner, which looks very much like an ARP Quadra. If this comes up, it's not going to come up. Are you coming up? Come on, you can do it. Bum, ba, bum, ba, bum, 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 bum. Oh, there we go. So there, if I could open that into a new, I can't open that into a new one, can I? Okay, not going to worry about that one. Okay, why don't we, I can't. Okay, so we're going to look at the 900 series Moog modules that have been released by Cherry Audio into Voltage Modular. Now, this is my patch here, I think, that I put together after downloading the modules. Yeah, interesting. I mean, they sound really good as you expect them to. I mean, Cherry Audio have been doing a brilliant job, I think, lately on the sound quality of their stuff. I often eavesdrop on conversations within the a Facebook group called the Pro Synth Network, where people talk about these things, and the people who are talking about these things are the people who have experience with the actual hardware. Because I've never, well, funny enough, I have played with the Moog modular when I was at college, but I had no appreciation for it whatsoever at the time. But some people have played with this sort of stuff and are able to give a proper opinion on whether something sounds good or not. But it sounded all right to me, I have to say. Voltage modular is still something that I like and don't like all at the same time. There's something about the visual side of it that I find, I don't know, not quite pleasing somehow. But it's very good. I mean, it's very, very clever. It does come with a whole load of presets, so you can patch the whole thing together, which is great. They have squashed it into Eurorack form, so very much like Behringer have with their Moog cloned modules. So they've done a very similar thing, but they also seem to have gotten around the S-Trig, V-Trig thing by just kind of ignoring it and labeling a couple of things differently. At least that seemed to be what I found. Couldn't seem to find S-Trig, V-Trig stuff going on. And they are different, and they're different for reasons that I can't remember. So there may be some things that you can do with the one you're not supposed to, the one that's wrong, that you can't do if it's all converted to the other thing. But anyway, instead of one or other of them, Cherry Audio started to put in a gate instead, just to make it a simpler, easier way to integrate that with other stuff. So yes, that's great. They also released a space delay, which is slightly less interesting because there's quite a few of those around these days, and it's not as if we're I don't know, we're scrabbling around trying to find a tape delay which sounds authentic, because there's an Arturia one which is really good, there's one in PreSonus Studio One which is really good, and there's others as well that I can't think of at the moment. But so kind of less exciting. I think that Cherry Audio did that, but these modules within Voltage Modular continues to grow to be quite quite an epic thing. They do sound really good. Let's go back. I'm just going to see whether this will work. So this is a teaser they got out for the moment that I kind of thought might be the ARP Quadra because of these 4 buttons, but you don't actually get those 4 buttons in that alternating pattern on the Quadra at all. So it may not be. You tend to get greens together and blues together. But in their little video here, which I'll just see whether we can hear, that might be nice, then you should be able to hear a bass sound and then some strings coming in, which would indicate some of that 4-part nature of the ARP Quadra. Did you get that all right? Did you get that all right? Did that come through? Yeah, I know what you mean, Mr. and Mrs. Science. That for me, often the authenticity of sound of the sound is not necessarily the thing that's most important to me. It's just how something, the sort of vibe something has, I think is ultimately what's interesting to me. Whether it's the exact vibe of that other thing or whether it's just a flavor of that thing. Yeah, that's good enough. Good enough from my point of view. You heard it. Good. Okay, so that's good. Yeah, it does have that sort of THX or Dolby thing going on. So yeah, they've also put this kind of quizzical Morse code into the description of the video, which apparently adds up to 16. But then there's a square root sign in front of it, which would make it 4, of course. 4 being the Quadra. That seems to fit anyway. There's a picture of the original What's It there as well. So that's what we reckon that could be about. Cool. So yeah, Cherry Audio generally doing really good stuff. I mean, I've bought I bought their ARP 2600 and their DCO 106, their Juno 106. I really like both of those. I think they're excellent. So yeah, doing good stuff at the minute, Cherry Audio. All right, let's have a look at this one. Now, I don't know whether enter's working. I'm going to hit that button again. Sugar Bites Nest. Any of you see this? Now, this is a thing. Good Lord, is this a thing? Now, I confess I haven't looked at this for about a month because this is quite early in October. But it's like... what do they call it? I said, oh yeah, no, it's a really cool software MIDI sequencer. The heck it is. What it is, right? It's some kind of logic and maths nightmare. You've got like channels and channels of maths, and then shift registers, and then converters, and then clocks. Then you got a whole shed load of logic gates where you're just going, oh, I don't know, I don't really know. And and then you've got some kind of sequencer at the bottom there somewhere. But I mean, within it, it's got a whole bunch of synthesizers, you know, decent sounding synthesis sounds built into it inside. So you've got sort of wavetables, and you've got what else did it have? You know, synths. It can also host VST plugins, so you can stick anything you like in there, and use the interface. See, there's your VST plugin side of things. And use the interface to modularly sequence all sorts of things in crazy ways. I mean, it's a bit nuts, this thing. I mean, immensely powerful, but you're going to have to spend a bit of time with it, I think. It was not the sort of thing that I felt, oh, yeah, no problem, no problem. No, it was much more of a, what? How do I even get a sound out of this? Where does the sound come from? Which bit is what? So yeah, I mean, impressive and interesting. And when you go through some of the presets as well, some of the patches that they've done for you, you think this thing is phenomenal. I wish I had the time to sit down and get my head around it. So yeah, if you've not come across that before, that's called Sugar Bites Nest. Very interesting. Oh, look, there's a bit of a trailer. Should we run that? Run VT. Yeah. Flipping awesome. That is pretty awesome. Yeah, very impressive. I mean, the video is very impressive. They spent a lot of time on that. So yeah, interesting. If that's your kind of thing, go and have a look. Was it expensive? Was the next question. 99. I think there was a bit of a demo you could get. So I definitely tried that out. I didn't pay for it, I don't think. No, I definitely tried it out. So yeah, try out the demo. Very interesting. Just a bit too complex for what I'm after just at the moment. Yes. Michelle, hi. Yeah, no, I'm doing all right, thank you. Doing all right. Doing all right. Right, what next? Okay, so that was that one. Let's move along. Let's try to squeeze some more in. Erica Synths educational modules. We talk about that. I don't need to show you anything too much on that, do I? Or maybe I can. Let me see if I can find it while we're talking. Erica. So Erica Synths used to do a lot of DIY modules. They were awesome, essentially DIY versions of most of the modules that they already did. How come these all came up for... Oh, never mind. Erica. Educational modules. Okay. There's not a whole lot to see, I don't think. I think there's a massive video. Yeah, much later on. But let's just have a quick close-up. So the idea is that Erica Synths got together with this other YouTuber over in Eastern Europe, I think, called MKI or something. And essentially he was already putting together these fantastically simple Eurorack module kits and tutorials on how to build them and how to make them. And so Erica Synths saw all of that and went, oh, well, that looks like exactly the sort of thing we're trying to do. So I spoke to Gertz about this early on in the pandemic, if you remember. And he talked about how he's retiring all of the DIY modules and they're looking to do something far more educational. And this is essentially what they've come up with. And what it is, they're just simple Eurorack modules that come with really very good tutorials and manuals on how you put them together. Excuse me. The idea being that what Gertz was slightly frustrated with me in particular, was how I wasn't learning anything. I was doing all these DIY kits and I wasn't learning anything new. I wasn't learning how filters work or how oscillators work or anything of that nature. I was just putting stuff together. Yeah, great, that works. Oh yeah, I'm just following the instructions, painting by numbers, and having a lovely time doing it. And I think that's completely valid. But he would like me to actually learn about the stuff as I'm doing it, which is fair enough. So with this educational range of modules, they hope to be able to kind of punt them into educational establishments to show you how you can make a simple VCO and how that works as you do it. I mean, I haven't seen any of the documentation yet. I haven't seen how that's going to work out, and I'll be very interested in building a few just to give my view on it. But it's a great idea, absolutely. I mean, a lot of companies have tried to do simple ranges of Eurorack. I mean, I think about that a lot myself. I'd like to be able to produce a range of simple, buildable DIY Eurorack, but it's trying to do it cheap enough to make it attractive for people to want to give it a go. I think is really hard, really, really hard. So it's going to be interesting to see how these price up and how well they're received and how well they work, and whether after all of that building you actually have something which is interesting to play with. Because that's the other thing, is that you can produce half a dozen good simple modules, but you end up that thing with modular where with just a handful of modules you can't do a whole lot. You know, you spend all that money and all that time, and you can make one sound with a filter, and it's perhaps not that interesting, because modular gets more interesting once, I think at least, once your system starts to expand, you've got different ways of doing things and different ways of routing and using things differently, and you have a palette, a larger palette with which to start building and moving your sound about. If all you've got is a mono synth, then that's fun for that, but then that's kind of all it's going to be doing. And there's probably better put together already for you monosynths, which are ultimately going to be more fun. So I don't know, interesting. But I mean, I'm very pleased that Erica Synths are doing it. I think it could be really great. So I'm looking forward to seeing those in person, I think. So let me have a sip and check the commentary. Moritz Klein, is that the geezer's name? Cool, yeah. I appreciate a good manual on DIY, and they're notoriously terrible, but that's my job. I like to point out those sorts of things, and perhaps one day I'll be writing my own manuals. That would be a thing, wouldn't it? That would be a thing. Oh, did he? Cool. Yeah, we'll go and check that out. It looks, I mean, when I saw the video at the Modular Day when they were first presenting them, I couldn't quite catch the name of the guy who they were doing it with, but his name is Moritz Kleins. Cool. I will definitely go and check that out. Very interesting. Right. Next. I did that. Right. Okay. The RTL utility update. All right. Let's put me on for a moment while I see if I can find that. So the RTL utility, what is that? So real-time latency. There was this utility, right? So real-time latency, what am I talking about? So, right. Back to audio interfaces again. Audio interfaces lie to you all the time. They lie to you about their buffer size. They lie to you about how many samples they're using. They lie to you about their round trips and their secret safe zone buffers. They just spout lies the whole time. You cannot trust them, and you shouldn't trust them. Now, I've done lots of measurements on audio interfaces where you can physically measure the latency of audio passing through them. Because if you're not familiar with this kind of thing, you have an audio interface that's plugged into your computer that provides audio inputs and outputs for your computer. However, there is a finite amount of time that it takes for audio to travel through that interface over the USB hub or hump into the computer, to be the computer to go, oh my goodness, there's audio, what am I going to do with that? And then send it back out again. It takes time for that to happen. And we call that time latency. And we experience that in a delay we hear when we speak and hear the audio, when we're monitoring, when singing, or we also hear it when we play virtual instruments on a keyboard, and it's the delay between hitting a key and hearing a sound. So the audio interface and your audio software will report a certain amount of latency, and those figures are not always right. In fact, they're very rarely right. But there are ways that you can measure the latency going through an audio interface. Now, I used to do this in the old school way, and I continue to do it in the old school way because that pleases me. And by that I mean I take like a square wave from a synth, bib on a keyboard, and I I plug that into the audio interface. I go through the computer, out of the audio interface, and then into another audio interface into a computer. Then I take the other side of the stereo beep that I've made and put that directly into that other computer. So then I've got two audio signals, one that's going through the audio interface and through the computer, and one that isn't. You can then record those two signals into a piece of software like SoundForge or any audio software which lets you record a stereo signal, and then you can then zoom in on the front end of that recorded signal and see the difference between those left and right waveforms. Are you with me? And that will show you the actual latency that's happening when that audio signal passes through that audio interface and computer. Now, it's a bit of hassle setting all that up, to be fair. And so there's this very useful utility called the RTL round trip latency utility, which the idea is that you take a jack cable, you take the output of your audio interface, plug it into the input, and then select those two things in the utility, and it will send a pulse through, and it will measure how long it takes from one to go through and one not to go through, or something like that. And therefore gives you that figure that I would have got through my old school way of doing it. That's brilliant and very, very useful, except I can never get the bloody thing to work. It would drive me nuts, drive me up the wall. Couldn't get the gain right. It was always giving me errors. Oh, no, you're not doing this right, not doing that. Oh, I've got the monitoring wrong. So I would inevitably spend an hour trying to do that and then just go back to my old school way, which I know would work every time. Now, they've actually reached version 1 now of the RTL utility, which means it's an official release. And in doing that, whoever it is who wrote the thing, they've massively improved it to the point now that I installed it and it worked first time. No way! So we now have, at least in my view, a reliable and stable way of measuring real-time latency through just looping a cable round. And that could be incredibly useful. So when I'm going to do my roundup of all those audio interfaces, I'll definitely be using that in order to compare them at different buffer sizes to see whether they're actually talking nonsense or not. Yeah, so that's a cool new thing. Definitely worth a mention. Did that. Okay, the Rhodes Mark 8. Have we been looking at this, fella? I mean, good gracious. Oh, well, you might not have seen this. Okay, so let me do this, because how am I going to make this work? All right, bear with me, because I was on the early list for the Rhodes. This is the hardware Rhodes Mark 8, and I put myself on the list for that, and so I have access to the website. So let me do that for you. Rhodes, blah, 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 blah. Let's see if I can get this to work. So I need to get that, and I need to put that. Where do I need to do that? Just bear with me. Talk amongst yourselves. Browser, name browser. Can I just stick that in there? No, that's not going to work. How do I change that? Maybe I need to add another one. That might be easier. Yeah, forget that. Forget you. Right, add another one. I'm just struggling with vMix, in case you're not aware of the software that I use. It's brilliant, but I don't quite use it often enough, like I use it once a month, to remember how to use it. Okay, good. Right, let's do that. Nearly there. So there's bits of it that I just don't understand. Can't I paste that in there? Oh, go on with you. You're not going to let me paste? I just... hang on. Okay, I'm in. Right, so this is the Rhodes website if, like me, you have special access. So that's exciting. And this is the new Rhodes Mark 8 piano. It's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. It's not, I mean, it is and it isn't. It's a little sort of angular in some places. That front silver panel, is it as gorgeous quite as previous ones have been? I don't know. Yes, it is. No, I don't know. Be interesting to see it in person. I think that would make a lot of difference. But undoubtedly, it's a beautiful thing, and it's a real thing. It's a real piano. We're not talking about some kind of digital piano. This is a real electromechanical device that uses tines and hammers and all that stuff, man, to make a real machine that makes a thing that goes a bit like. Where's my sustain pedal? It's like this. Of course, it's not what you're actually listening to, but it doesn't matter. Just to give you a gist, right? So, so within here, you can then configure your own Rhodes electric piano. Let's have a look. Can we customize? There we go. That's the button you want. So this is what you can do. This is your basic model. Have a look at the price down here. That's something to bear in mind, I think. So there's your basic version. Front and back. I think it's all right. That, you know, this hood, these angles, yeah, no, they're good. I think. I mean, it's a proper piece of furniture type piano, is what it is, and I think that's nice. Let's go back to this view. Now you've got different finishes, like gold sparkle, for instance. I mean, how awesome is that? That's pretty awesome. You've got to say. Can I zoom in a bit? No, I'm stuck with that. Okay. You've also got a silver sparkle. Nice. Transparent. That's the most expensive type of hood you can have. You've got a bit of purple in there, some blues, pink, khaki. Not sure about the white. Now that's red. That's not too bad. The orange, I'm not too sure about how orange that is exactly, but yeah, okay, you can go for that. Silver, you see, nice. Gold sparkle, I think, is quite nice. You can also then change the bottom shell, which is to walnut, if you prefer. Then you've got the front panel, can either be dark or light. You can then add the effects panel on the right. This adds like a delay, chorus, reverb, that kind of thing. Have that in either color or not at all. Stick that in, shall we? See the old price go up. You can have the preamp panel in black or silver as well. There's no actual change on the keyboard. Presumably they'll put a white and black keyboard in there or something like that. Or maybe there'll be different sizes at some point. And then you can choose whether you have a stand or not. So there's a nice stand. So that would probably be my choice. I don't know, would I go orange? The orange is kind of nice, in which case maybe the bottom shell should be black. Front panel, maybe that should be black. No, not like that quite so much. So anyway, you're looking at sort of $8,000, really, which is amazing. Should I just add that to basket? Pay in full? What do you think? Don't know. Anyway, so the order process is they're making about 50 a month. So if you get yours in, you'll just be next in line. They'll make them one at a time, hand built in Leeds. And there you go. Maybe the gold sparkles. I'll go with the gold sparkles, really. But a phenomenal thing. Now, here's the thing. I'm hoping to pop along there to do a bit of a review. Now, it seems kind of weird to do a review of such an expensive piano that I'm never going to be able to afford, and I don't think many people will be able to. And what's the point of me doing a review of such such a machine if I don't actually have any experience of any Rhodes at all, like ever? And those are valid questions, and I can't really answer those. But I thought to myself, that's fascinating. I think it's historically extraordinary. And I think it may be interesting for me to go up to the factory to talk to some people there and just to find out what is it about Rhodes that's so awesome. What is it that captures that magic? To find out a bit about it, and then to honestly sit down and play it and talk to the camera and record that sort of stuff, just to talk about how it makes me feel, because I love the sound of the Rhodes. I love it. I just absolutely... I love it. Absolutely love it. And I've always used it in music, you know, various virtual versions, obviously. And I mean, the one piano I've been after forever is the Korg SV2. That's what I want. I can't even afford that, let alone this flipping big one. But anyway, so I kind of figured that it may be interesting for me, I'm not Herbie Hancock. I'm not one of these big heads who are going to go in there and just play and talk about the authenticity of it. I'd like to go in and have a look at it from the point of view of someone who would just be interested in playing. What does it feel like? What does it sound like to you? How does it feel to play? Is it the sort of thing that if I happen to have $8,000 knocking around that I might put down on a speedboat, maybe I could put that into a Rhodes Mark 8 instead? Would that be a beautiful piece of furniture to have in your house? So from a novice's, beginner's, amateur point of view, is that something that I could contribute to the bunch of professional videos out there of people talking about their lifetimes and their souls and their vibes? You know, maybe I'd have something different to offer, and I think that could be worthwhile. So they seem to be up for it anyway. So I'm sort of penciled in for sometime in December to go up to the factory and to take the camera, give a bit of a go. So, don't know. It's going to be fun, I think. Excuse me. COVID and that. Don't be shy. Right, so talking about the Rhodes, and I keep twinkling on this thing, let's just talk about that for the minute. Oh, I didn't do a capture of the desktop. Let me see whether I can pull that in. Right. So I need to do that. I need to add a thing. I'm going to take a desktop capture. Let's have a look at that, shall we? If it all crashes and goes away, I am sorry. Can I get that to show this bit? I cannot. That's a shame. Okay, stand by, try that again. Desktop capture, let's try that one. Oh yeah, that'll do. Right, so let's talk about this then. So this is Sound Paint. Now, okay, just before let's talk about it, it's a camera first. So Sound Paint, this was sort of hinted at for a little while. It comes from 8DIO or 8DIO, who are the people who put the sound library in the Prophet XL, the sequential Prophet XL. So they're sound library people, you know, makers of samples. And they had this thing called Sound Paint, which they teased about being, oh, look, it's a new thing. It's a bit like Contact. And it's like, oh, great, it's a bit like Contact. That's exciting. So if you forgive me, I'm not particularly enthralled by sample content. We don't also tend to cover it very much on Gear News because there's just so much of it. And it all tends to be very cinematic and very similar. I mean, there's undoubtedly fantastic stuff out there, like Spitfire audio stuff, and other constant libraries of interesting, swirly, cinematic stuff that's all built into the Contact engine that all seems to have the same kind of effects, the same modulation, the same kind of idea behind the same interface. So when 8DIO were saying, oh yeah, we've got Sound Paint, it's a bit like Contact, but oh, far, far better. It's like, yeah, right, yeah, whatever. That would be great. But then they released it with this Steinway piano, And I was having a look at it, and I was writing up for Gear News without having tried it first, waiting for the whole thing to download, talking about how dull the interface looked and how do we really need another one of these? And then it was finally downloaded, and I started to play it, and it's just flipping phenomenal. It's like, well, this is amazing. I mean, as I say, I'm not a virtuoso piano player at all, but it was just great, and I sat there having a play on my little contact keyboard for plenty of time, and I will show you a bit of that now. Hopefully this will work all right. So I've got the Rhodes. They've just released a Rhodes, which I paid, I think, a whole $20 for, which is awesome. But let's just go back to the piano, which is the free thing. How am I going to do this? Think about it. All right, I'm going to go here. I'm just going to assume that it works. Don't move it. Do that. Did that work over here? Yes, it did. Okay, good. Right. So just trust your gear. So down here, you have this. So this is the interface. As I say, it's the dullest interface I've seen in ages. It's really a disappointment in terms of what it looks like. But that's by the by, because it sounds great, and perhaps the lack of razzmatazz keeps everything nicely focused. So you have a built-in library down the side, but none of these actually have anything in them until you either buy instruments or get hold of them. So currently I have the piano, which is free, and it's a 1928 vintage Grand Steinway, of which you have all these different presets. Now these presets use their sample library and then add effects and morphing and other bits and pieces to make them sort of interesting. So there's lots of different versions, and it was quite difficult initially to find where the clean Steinway is. But let's just give you a couple of examples. So there's a dreamy Android one. Other things to note is that it loads incredibly fast for the size of samples that they are. So this was the worst preset to pick. So it's got too many effects on it. So let's try something else. Now the point, I think, is what they're trying to get to, is that the magic sauce within this particular piece of software is that it, in real time, renders all of the gaps between the velocity levels. What does that mean? I don't know. It just means that it's incredibly expressive. So rather than set 127 samples, 128 samples of velocity, it will... I don't know, extrapolate, interpolate. It will come up with all of the samples in between in real time as you play. So is that noticeable? I don't know. I just think it sounds lovely. And this isn't even one of their ultra deep sampled things, because the idea is their ultra deep sampled sample library has uses this technology to create thousands of velocity layered samples within itself, which is then ready for MIDI 2.0 if ever that materializes. And then they also have this morph technology that lets you morph between 4 different parts, if you like. So you can load up 4 different mic positions or 4 different parts of the piano, have those affected differently, and then morph between them. But I don't know that I quite understand that yet, so I'm not going to do that too much. But I will use one of these which attempts to use that sort of idea. Does that sound any different at all? I'm not sure that it does. See, that's quite nice because it swirls between a couple of things. So yeah, it's just really nice. Let's try something a bit more, which has an arpeggiator built in. Oh, it's still half of it still loading. It's just nice. So yeah, there's the piano. If I bring in the Rhodes now. Weird. So it has lots of different effects you can stick in, and you've got modulations and a whole modulation matrix inside with which to assign various things to. There's a whole load of different effects in here, which is cool, and an arpeggiator that you can run in. So on and so forth. But I found that if you just want to play the sample set without all of these effects and bits and pieces, if you don't go to the part rather than program, then you've just got the sample sets right here. So I could clear this out of the way, just take the DI sustain sounds, for instance. Oh, I've still got all those effects on. Let me kill all of that. How do I kill all of that, do you think? There's probably a way to kill all of that. Let's create a new program, discard changes. There we go. So there's the sustained DI noise. I could bring in the cabinet noise. So you've got a little bit more of the electromechanicalness of it. Could also add staccato sounds. So yeah, that's the idea. There's a lot more library out there. They're already doing some sort of weird cinema noises. They've got Commodore 64. They've got a Jupiter 8. They have a 808 drum machine. Slightly strange selection. You kind of expected them to have something more along the instrument line, but they do also have guitars, I think, in there already. And no doubt this will expand. But so far, the player is free. The piano is free. The Rhodes, I think, was about $20, $30 maybe, and the other ones are similarly priced. So it's very keenly priced for something which feels very, very expressive, just for, you know, something which is instantly good. So there you go. That's that. Sorry, I don't mean to turn the camera on to just then have me cough. So yeah, I think I'm running out of myself now. So maybe I should be bringing this to a close soon. What else was there to talk about? Well, there was lots. There's something called Solo Rack 2. Well, let me see if I can whistle through a few just by going through the Gear News browser. Let's just pull back a little bit, just to point out a couple of things worth talking about. Sorry. Honestly, that's not a that's not a COVID cough. It's just because I've been talking too long. So yeah, the RTL utility there, that looks fantastic, doesn't it? What a great thing to look at. Output 2, not Output 2, Arcade 2 from Output. That now allows you to load your own samples. Oh, come on. Breathe. Okay. Yeah, so that looks, was that the new thing in it? I think so. Oh yeah, no, you can play melody, because arcade was all about kind of triggering loops, whereas now you can also use it as an instrument to play different instruments rather than just triggering loops round. So that's what Arcade 2 is all about. There's a new dual 12-bit digital wavetable voice from those people. Oh, I'm losing it. There's a new version of Uvi Falcon, which added a whole load of interesting things. That's quite a fantastic... again, it's another one of those contact-like workstation places for sample library. Solo Rack 2.0, a virtual Euro rack. It's been around a little while, and this is version 2, which still looks kind of the same. It looks very dope-for, which is it's kind of its downside, really. It could be more colourful, more interesting, more engaging, but it's still quite an awesome virtual Euro rack system to look at. I think the Pittsburgh's Flamingo is already sold out, so that's a waste of time talking about that. This was really good. Sam Topley's embroidering circuits was a fascinating a woman who creates uses textiles and smart fabrics in order to make circuits using different forms of wool and materials and bits and pieces. I found that fascinating. Definitely worth looking at. Instruo is back, with a couple of new modules. One of them was a through zero oscillator. Now I have a through zero oscillator over here. Now this was kindly sent through to me from LA6 or something. I don't know. I haven't quite worked that out yet. But there you go. It's the TZ. Now, I haven't had a chance to play with this yet, but what I would like to do is to do a video on what on earth through zero is, because I don't really fully understand. Something to do with frequency modulation. So I'm going to do a video on this, exploring what on earth that's all about, and see if we can find out what it's about, and find out something interesting about it. So that's very cool. It's all covered in spiderwebs, which is a crime, but that happens a lot around here. So I'm looking forward to doing something on that very soon. But Instruo also have a through zero oscillator. It seems to be a thing of the moment. The fidget spinner LFO, thought was rather nice. Oh, you're not seeing that. Oh, here we go. Fidget spinner LFO. I thought that was pretty cool. As was the My Daddy Has 100 Synths children's book. Quite good one for Christmas. Probably not for your kids, just for you. Behringer released the Edge, which of course is a companion for the Crave, and it's essentially a DFAM, a drummer from another mother from Moog. It's that taken and Behringerized into the Edge. It looks great. Looks like a great companion to the Crave. I guess there's nothing wrong in that. I'd like to see them just doing their own thing. I have a DFAM now. It's over. No, it's over there. You can't quite see it, which is great. And I haven't been able to spend a lot of time with it yet. But it's certainly an interesting thing. I know lots of people who really swear by it. I mean, it was sent to me as part of the two the Moog Studio pack that I did a review on. And I'd like to sit down and spend a bit more time with that. Don't yet have the subharmonic on. I think that's the full set really that people really want. Anything else in here really? Sound paint, knobs, yeah. 1U, yeah, I'm planning on doing a video on 1U as well, because there's a couple of little 1U bits that I'm after. So I'd like to do a what on earth is 1U about type video, because it's one of those things that have had me scratching my head, because people keep saying, well, you know, do you have Pulp Logic or do you have IntelliJ? And I'm going, well, I don't know. And I do a lot of Googling on what on earth is Pulp Logic, what on earth is IntelliJ, and what the difference is, and blowed if I could find any answers on that. So there must be plenty of other people going, I have no clue what that's all about. What does it mean? So I figured, now that I have rooted out the answer to those sorts of questions, I should do a bit of a video on it. I think that might be helpful for my journey to focus on those things a little bit. But I'm kind of I found myself in this situation where there's two modules I can't quite decide on. One of those is the six sequencer from Tubatech, which is an 8-channel drum pattern maker. This is my sign for 1U. 1U big. That one, or the IntelliJ, I think it is Steppy. They also do a 1U version of that, and that's only a 4-channel one, but it has longer patterns. You can do 64-note patterns as opposed to 16-note patterns on the sequencer. Although, of course, you can chain patterns together. It's just the convenience of doing 64 notes means that you can have a channel which doesn't do a lot and then does a bit of a fill at the end, whereas to do that on a 16-channel one, you'd have to then chain up a bunch of things, and that gets more complicated. So while I like the extra channels in the sequencer, I like the simplicity of the Steppy, sorry. The downside of the Steppy is that it's 28 HP, which is quite a lot for a 1U module. And what I was hoping to use is those brackets by Zords, Exodes. I don't know how you pronounce their name. But they've been doing these brackets that you can drop into a regular case. that give you a couple of rows of, or 3 rows of 1U, which I think is brilliant. But the largest one they do is a 24 HP one. With that will fit the 6-sequencer, but it wouldn't fit the steppy. So I don't know what to do about that. I could get a regular steppy, but then I kind of like the idea of drum programming to be horizontal as opposed to vertical. I don't know. Questions. But anyway, in order to do a video, all I need really is one Pulp Logic tile and one IntelliGel tile, and I can talk about it. So we'll see. I am attempting to refocus the YouTube channel on less reviews, still some reviews, but less actual product reviews and more on product doings. How do you do something? So although it's interesting to talk about the TZ as the TZ, what's more interesting is to talk about through zero. Similarly, it's interesting to review an individual audio interface, but it's more interesting, I think, to compare a whole bunch of audio interfaces. So that is the sort of thing that I'm trying to do. I got a bit bogged down over the last 6 months with reviews, I think, which are all great and interesting, but they don't quite have the reach of a video which is actually going to be helpful to people. Do you see what I mean? So that's kind of I'd like to do a little bit more of that. Another module I have over here, try not to hit my microphone. Okay, I don't mean to make sound effects, noises with my mouth. That's a bit ridiculous. Here's this fella here, which is, bring it into shot, is the Rachel. What is that? I don't know. But I want to find out. It's like a companion to the Descartes voice from Black Corporation. It appears to have an envelope and mount. Is it just an LFO? No, it's got 1 volt per octave input. I think isn't it a ring modulator? Oh, see, look, I'm just being an idiot now. I'm embarrassing myself. I'm not entirely sure. I have written about it in the past, but I just cannot remember. So I'm looking forward to getting into that a little bit, because that could be magnificent, because Black Corporation makes some lovely stuff. So I'm well into working that out. And again, doing a video about what it is and how it works more than just reviewing the product. That would be the plan. I have the Surface Pro 8 here. Not much to show you really. Which I am slowly loading software onto. That is going to be, I'll be doing a video on that soon, I think, very soon. So I need to test MIDI interfaces and audio interfaces with it. So I'll probably do like an introductory video on it, first impressions type video. But I can tell you now, my first impressions are, yeah, seems to be working very well. Windows 11, excuse me, all that, the touch rigmarole, the weird ass pen that's in here, weird flappy thing. Don't know what that's about, but interesting stuff. So I'll do a whole load of videos on that. It looks like it's going to be great, I think. And to go along with that, I would also like to be bringing in a little bit more software into the videos I do as well, like the SoundPate thing. Why can't I be doing little bits on that? I should be able to. I should do. So I am trying to reevaluate and refocus my video content at the moment to make it more helpful, more relevant, a little bit more diverse as well, because I think I get stuck a little bit in Eurorack when there's a lot of stuff, other stuff we could be talking about, which is all part and parcel of the same world. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, it's a ring modulator, says Guy Smiley. Thank you. I'm glad we got you around. Otherwise, I wouldn't know what on earth I was doing. So there was that. There's one more thing to show you, I think, before I call it a night, and that's all the way over here. So this week I'm going to be doing a video on this fella. I think that's my plan at any rate. So this, I'm just kind of, I mean, I get a bit precious about these things because I'm like, excuse me, desperate not to let the cat out of the bag when it's like, why? Who am I hiding these things from? I mean, do I really believe that everyone's hanging on, what on earth is he going to do in this next video? And it's a real tease and people are really excited. So I'm just going to tell you about it now because I think it's interesting, and then you can look forward to it actually arriving. So Arturia, bless them, because I said I love Arturia. They sent me 2 of these, the rack brutes. Decent cases. Now I've had criticisms. I've had my, what am I trying to say? I think they're really good cases, except for a couple of things. The first thing was the placement of this power supply. Now let's bring this up so you can see this a little bit. See this power supply? It comes with, right, a power supply like that. That you stick in the front of the box, and you plug into that, and off you go. It's got lights on the front. It tells you the voltages, because you've got no idea what on earth voltages would earth be going on here without those LEDs. Oh, good gracious, no. Well, how on earth would we cope? So it has all of that. Now, the problem I have with that is that it's taking up valuable space. I mean, it's not a massive case in the first instance, and you've got like 5 or 6 HP. I mean, this is quite wide for a power module being taken up by that. So I thought, well, that's no good, is it? So anyway, so Arturia have sent me these to have a play with, even though they've been out for a good couple of years now. So I thought, well, sod it, I'm going to mod them to make them what I want them to be. So the first thing is to put this internal, because why on earth isn't it internal? It should absolutely be internal. There's no reason that I can think of why this should be an external module taking up space when you've made your own case. I mean, they've got a flipping bus board in here. Look at all this stuff in here. So this should be inside. So that's what I'm doing. I'm sticking it inside. So, so I've got, I'm going to be sticking it to the bottom there, trying not to short anything out, of course. Now, I should point out that I'm not an electrical engineer, and this is probably not a good idea, but I'm just doing it anyway. So don't follow my advice. Just, you know, smile and nod and think, oh, that's interesting. So what I've had to do in order to get the power in there, I've had to drill a hole in the side, which I have, and then get a couple of cables like this in order to bring the power socket out. Now, I did think long and hard about putting in some kind of, you know, routing in here, a space to mount the front of that power supply here, or maybe getting a switch and then extending that and soldering that onto the side and putting the things. I've got a switch, you know, on off a rocker switch maybe. Then I could bring the LEDs out and poke those through the side. Then I thought, oh, sod it. I mean, that's such a load of work, really, when all I need to do is have the power thing in here, providing it's not shorting itself out, just have it turned on. And then all I do is plug this in. Then it works. I don't need to see those LEDs. I don't need to switch the switch. I just need to plug it in, and that would just make things a whole lot simpler. So that is my plan for this, and I've done one of them already. And what my plan is to so I've worked this out and say, yeah, this is what I've done, and then I'll get the other one and I'll do that and film that and show me modding the other one and then using the two together. Because what ultimately I'm trying to achieve is to have 2 of these cases, because you have one here and one off here. And this is going to be my live rig, and then I'm going to build my live rig into it. So that should be quite interesting, because I have, I don't know if you can see my orange case at the back, that was intending to be my live rig. It's just not quite big enough. There's just not quite enough for me to successfully feel I could do something on that. But I think with 2 of these, I would have more than enough to be able to make, you know, 40 minutes to an hour's worth of music with that rig. And I think that's what I'm aiming for now at this point. I think that would be interesting. Now, people have already told me I did a couple of photos on Instagram, that this is a terribly bad idea and it's probably going to catch fire or something. Maybe, I don't really know. All I know is I'm going to be velcroing this side of it to the bottom here, and it will be great. Now, the other thing I didn't like about the Arturia cases was the back, because the back of the Arturia case has the enormous Arturia logo, which is this big A. You've probably seen it. Now, if it had Moog or Sequential or Buchla, then you go, oh yeah, wow, man, that's cool. But Arturia? I mean, as I say, I love your Arturia, but I don't really think you quite have the standing for people to go, oh wow, look, it's the A of Arturia on the back of his case. I just don't think it's quite up there yet. You make fantastic stuff. It's not that kind of vintage logo. Do you know what I mean? So I got out my paint paint stripper, like I did with my Behringer modules, and I put this on the back instead. Now, isn't that far better? Don't you think? There's still got rack brute left in the corner. But look at that. That's better. Now, obviously, it didn't go completely right because I took a little bit too much paint off. I've got a bit of a scratch there. But heck, this is going to be a live rig, so it's going to be beaten up and scratched, I imagine, at some point. But that is, I think, far better, personally. So when this is sitting, oh, I've got my headphones got onto it. When this is sitting on a desk when I'm doing a gig, rather than shouting Arturia, is actually going to be shouting something about me, which I think is far better. The other thought I had would be to put a screen in this, you know, Velcro a thin display and have some kind of stuff going on. I mean, that's another thought, but again, it gets complicated. So it's going to be like this, right? Got it? And then you'll be able to see that, and I got another bit coming off here. That's the idea with all of that. But I hope to do a video on that this week if I recover from tonight. Because I did for a little bit there, thought I had a gig this Thursday. Or at least there was an open mic night in Norwich, which I was going to hope to get to, but damn it, I've got a parents' evening and I've got to get the kids to something else. So I just can't get there. Just a flipping pain in the ass. So, but that'll give me a bit more time, perhaps, to work on stuff, because I'm still trying to work out my drums, as we're talking about this sequencer and the steppy, trying to get that together. I know Marlon Melodies is interesting because he, you know, very much inspired by his techno rig. He does a fantastic job with that, and he's also been working through how to do drums, because he's been using a sort of probability-based system using grids. But he's come to the realization that he actually wants some programmed drums in there. Excuse me. You want something which is doing what it is you're asking it to. And I absolutely relate to that and want to do that too. And while I like using Euclidean rhythms or the compass or just some clocking bits and pieces going in to drop drums in and out, I just really feel that I want at the end of 64 steps there to be a little lead into the next time coming round. You want a few things in there which are doing things on purpose that kind of, I feel, you want the odd fill, you want the odd thing that you can just drop in and that pattern rotates, and then you've got other elements which go on top of that. So that's what I'm trying to get to, I think, with all of that, because I'm quite happy with the melodic side of things. I've got a lot of options to choose from there. I love the 8-step sequencer I've got from What's It, and I'm then just going to have to decide on whether I'm going to go with the black sequencer as my main running sequencer alongside that, or with something else. But you know, inevitably I'm going to be using the Castor and Pollux. I'm going to be using the Honor oscillator, of which I probably need to get another one, and then the Surface. Oh wow, you know, it just goes on. But this is going to be part of my the video on the Arturia stuff, is trying to work out the live rig which is going to fill that box. It will be forever changing, undoubtedly. So but yeah, that's the plan with that. So that I've got that coming up. So I got that. I got the Rachel, got the TZ, doing something on through hole. Got to do something on 1U modules. and the Surface Pro 8. That's probably gonna take us up towards Christmas, I should think. Do I have anything else knocking around? Oh, that audio interface idea. Yeah, doing that. The slight difficulty with the audio interface thing is that I've got a couple more on my desk here I'm doing for review, and really I need to wait until they're out in Sound on Sound before I can do anything else on them, because Sound on Sound source them for me and they should get first dibs on anything that I say about them, which means I have to wait quite a long time to be able to use them in a video, because it takes like 8 weeks for stuff to come out. Once you've given in a review to Sound on Sound magazine, it usually takes 8 weeks before it actually physically appears in print. So there's a little bit of a time factor with that. So it may be that I'm going to put off the audio interface thing until the new year, because the two that I've got are quite interesting. So I do not know. The other thing I've got here, which I'm doing for Sound on Sound, I'll just give you a tiniest glimpse of. But again, I'm not allowed to really do anything on it, which is this. It's the time tosser. Very interesting. I mean, you know, too long didn't read type review. It's bloody good fun. It's flipping awesome. Plug stuff in, you hit buttons and it just goes, whoa, that's amazing. So I'm writing that one up soon. But again, I can't do a video on it until it's out in Sound on Sound. So you'll have to wait for print for that one. So that's probably me. So do give us a shout in the comments if you have any questions you'd like me to answer while I just finish my beer, just for a couple of minutes. I'm quite happy to keep on going. Should be Molten modular stickers you can put on your own cases. Maybe. I mean, I do have t-shirts, obviously. I mean, it's quite a big decal. I'll have to have a look into that. I mean, I've done for the second case. I wasn't sure exactly what to do. So for it depends on which way up I wanted to go. So the second case, I've got this, which is my jellyfish design, which has got Molten Modular written very small on one of the patch cables. See the patch cables? Can you see that? So this one is going to go over the top of the A. That's why all this black is going to all the way across the back of the case. To cover that A up rather than me having to wipe it out, and then I can choose whether I have this up or the other one up, and then when I carry it off, I've got either side. So that's the plan for that. And you can get this on a t-shirt. In fact, look, I'm wearing one right now. Let me show you. I don't want to get that folded. I've got. Wait for it. Which is on a t-shirt. See, it's a very lovely t-shirt. Ow! It's a good t-shirt. So yeah, that's a that's a possibility. There's also mugs and other things, bits and pieces you can pick up already. But yeah, I'll let me see if I can turn that into a purchasable sticker. Most certainly. No, I'm not doing any mirrors. Thank you. So let me just check through the comments a little bit. Feel free to add some more. Oh, Constant Lab Power Checker. There's a good idea. 1U. Yeah, oh yeah, I mean, that's one thing, right? So I've got the other piece of cable here that's going to go in the other case. I haven't done that yet. The other bad design decision Arturia did is that this is 2.5 mil, I think. Let me get this right way around. Whereas a guitar pedal, which I don't have to hand, guitar pedals are 2.25, I think. As I say, it might be the other way around. Basically, what it means is that every splitter that I can find for this, in order to be able to run both cases off one power supply, doesn't fit. I have not found one that fits this size. It's not the voltage that's a problem. It's the flipping sizing on this. It's just off enough to not take a regular laptop supply. It doesn't take a regular, Boss pedal supply, and so those like breakouts that you can get for pedals, so you can power a whole load of pedals off one power supply, do not fit this, which is a total pain. So that when I go to a gig, I'm having to take 2 power supplies. Ridiculous. However, that's what I'm going to have to do for now until I'm brave enough to actually wire the thing, you know, to come up with a, with a solution myself. So at the moment, I'm just drilling a little hole and passing this through and then soldering it together, putting on a bit of heatsink. You know, simple stuff, trying to keep it as simple as possible. But, you know, when you turn it on, all the lights on the modules are going to come on. It's not like it's going to be weird. I don't know. Euro-rackers and power supplies, they're a weird bunch. There's something going on. There's something that taps into the inner nerdy scientist and and electronics person when it comes to Euro-rack and power supplies. I mean, I found as a bit of an idiot that you just buy a power supply and turn it on and it works. You don't have to worry about, oh, do I have enough voltage? Enough voltage for what? What are you talking about? I mean, okay, if you've got a wall of oak cabinets going on, then sure, yeah, worry about voltage. But honestly, in a couple of rows, what could you possibly be setting fire to? What, you know, it's simpler, I think, than people let on. Do people hack PC ATX power supplies? Don't think so, because they're bloody enormous. You're not going to get anywhere. I mean, I remember when I was running Carol on back in the day, we looked into a lot of external power supplies, the possibility of taking an ATX power supply external, outside the case, for 2 reasons. One, to make the case smaller, it will give you more room for hard drives and stuff, but also so you could passively cool the power supply. Because once we'd quietened everything else down inside the Carol on case, it was the power supply that was the noisiest thing in there. So if you could take the power supply out and have a box which was essentially its own heatsink, you know, like you did with some Valve microphones or with Mackie mixers, they have these big chunky power supplies knocking around. There's no reason why you couldn't do that with a PC, other than the fact it was a big faff. It was just a load of work and trouble, and you know, it would have to be done on a hand-built sort of basis as opposed to mass production, because you can never do enough to get something like power supplies built. It's just too difficult. Anyway, but Dickie has, so, you know. You see, and everyone's talking about voltage. So yeah, don't mind me. Didn't mean to be insulting. It's wonderful to talk about voltages. That's, yeah, awesome. And for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, don't worry about it. You don't need to talk about voltages. You get a case with a power supply, you don't have to worry about it. Honestly, there's nothing you have to worry about. Forget it. Don't worry about whether it's 5 volts, 12 volts, whatever it is. You buy stuff off the shelf, it all just works. That's the brilliant nature of it. Yeah, I understand that the LEDs can be an indication of something going seriously wrong. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. But then there's no end to that, is there? Okay. Let me come back down again. Yeah, I mean, there probably is a heat thing to do with that power supply, possibly. I don't know. I mean, I might be way off mark here. I might be setting myself up for some trouble. I don't know. I'm just going to try it, man. Just going to try it out and see what happens. I mean, maybe, I mean, somebody else suggested that it was perhaps using the rails as a heatsink, which I suppose is possible, but also seems like a really inefficient method, because you've only got a screw, and actually the screws that come with are washered with plastic washers, which is not helping if you're trying to connect it to the rails in order to transfer heat. So I don't know that that's the case. Besides, I've got a number of different power supply modules in my rack, and it's only the Micro Zeus tip top ones that get hot. The rest don't. You know, the Micro Zeus ones get very hot. The front panel gets hot. The Row Power ones don't get hot. The Bafako ones I've got don't get hot. So I don't know. I don't know what that's about necessarily. But I could theoretically, inside the case, mount it in such a way that the metal of the front panel is touching the metal of the case, and then that will draw away heat, one could say. At the moment, I've put down sort of duct tape because I'm just scared of shorting the thing out. I don't actually want to do that. I don't want to make my case live, particularly, although it's not going to be, it's only going to be 12 volts. It's not going to be anything particularly mega, but I'd rather not do that if I can help it. So I don't know. I'm going to try it out and see. And it may be that it'll be in my first gig that the whole thing will catch fire. So that'll be fun. I think that'll bring an element of danger to the whole thing. Okay, what else we got? What else we got? Yeah, I mean, yeah, I want to talk about having a display, so I've just lost that comment now. Yeah, a display on the back with a camera view of the front. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I thought about I could stick the Surface on it. I could just Velcro that to the back, and that could be running whatever. And I thought that's a bit silly. So, but you can get thin second screens, second monitors, which you could use on there. And as you say, you can either camera it up or put it on some kind of graphical thing going on. That could be very interesting. It just might be a little bit an extra level of complexity, because inevitably it's going to sit there with a crashed cymbal, isn't it? You know, something broken, and you could be playing your whole gig and the whole thing's not worked because you can't see it because it's behind everything. So that's the thing that makes me wonder. I don't know whether that's worth it. But anyway, Deckard's Dream, asked Ken. Yeah, I know. Well, I do have some DIY. I've just tidied up over here again by my DIY area, so it is preparing itself for another go. I've got. I do want to do a little bit more soldering, as I haven't done for a while. I do have the Nermal from Neutral Labs. I've got a couple of Bafako kits as well. And potentially, I think I've got a noise plethora on its way soon as well. So I need to give those a bit of a go. So yeah, I definitely got some soldering coming up. And that will, because before I got the COVID, I had intended November to be a DIY month. But because I've lost a few weeks in there, that's not kind of happened now. But yeah, I want to get that done, and then I will do some more on the voice cards. And see where we get to. See by my birthday, Christmas time, whether I can get the Deckard's Dream to the point where all the voice cards are done, and then it's just purely a matter of bringing the whole thing together, which is the thing that scares me the most, because I have no clue how you do that. So that's exciting. That's exciting. That's tight. Are you referring to my t-shirt? Is that a compliment? Ooh, that's interesting. Where does one get one of the shirts? Down the bottom, right, of the video. Oh, not this one. If you go to my normal YouTube, oh yes, there is. Down the bottom of the YouTube video, you'll find merchandise. There's mugs and t-shirts and posters and stuff. You can have a look down there, and there's a few colours, all sorts of things you could try. You'd be very welcome. That'd be great. It'll be great. Steve Davis has this t-shirt, don't you know? Oh, yes, he does. I have one of his also. So that's good. What? Isn't the Arturia PSU AC? How would it be AC? I don't understand that. I mean, because it comes with a wall wart, yeah? It comes with a, I have one out. Oh yeah, no, I plugged it in. It comes with this thing here. So the Arturia plugs into this. So, you know, it's not AC, is it? Can it possibly be? No, it's DC. Look, it says so on the side. The output is 15 volts, DC 3 amps. Yeah. So no, the power supply isn't AC. It's just a regular. So all the hard work is done in here. The little module doesn't really do anything at all. It does 12 volt and 5 volt split type thing. You know, it's not an internal power supply that's bringing in mains voltage and doing the rigmarole and all of that, doing all the step downing, transforming and stuff. That's all done in this little thing. So it's relatively simple. It ain't going to blow up. It's just that I have to run two at the moment, which is a pain. Crikey. Yeah, I mean, I've been looking for converters. Blade, if I can find any. If somebody can find a way of converting between, as I say, whatever one this is, 2.5 or 2.5 to 2.25, I just want a splitter, you know. And then cause I'm going to have two of these, essentially, two of these ends, and I want to use one power supply to go into it. Because, I mean, you'll probably say, oh, you can't do that. But I seem to do it on everything else. I seem to do it on pedals, and no one seems to mind. I do it on my racks over here, where I've got the Row Power 40 has got DC pass-throughs. So do the Bafaco power supplies have DC pass-throughs in order to run different ones. So I don't see why that would be a problem. Only because I've done that a lot before, not because I know some kind of engineering stuff that tells me that I can. I'm just making assumptions based on the experience I've had so far. Yeah, power current isn't voltage. Yeah, yes, indeed. It's all about the voltage. No, all about the current. The current's the stuff that hurts, yeah? Yeah. Stuff that makes you feel funny when you put it in your mouth. Yeah. Have you seen the new features in Bitwig 4.1? Asked Jeff. Yes, I have. Aren't they amazing? They've just stuck in some like note effects, but like in many other things you get note effects which is like, oh, a slightly interesting arpeggiator. No, this is weird stuff. This is boundary bouncing, gravity swinging, dropping, bouncing ball stuff. Really interesting. I keep meaning to do more videos on Bitwig because it is extraordinary. Again, it's just time, space, and interface, that kind of thing, trying to fit all these things in. But no, I think that's very interesting that what they've added in there. Once I've gone through my basic testing all sorts of things on the Surface Pro 8, I'm going to try to do a monthly software focus, and there'll be a lot of Bitwig in that, I imagine. Yeah, I was planning this summer to do a lot of modular mobility business and just did not find the time. I did a fair bit of research into the sort of power packs you need, and it is so much easier to power to emulate this sort of power on power packs than it is to try to do mains. You can do mains, you just need a much bigger battery, which you're then stepping down and losing all of that voltage in order to get to the right one to power an internal power supply. Whereas if you use a power supply module with this, you're only needing to generate 12 volts, which is much simpler. And so that definitely works in terms of mobility. But I'm going to save that for next spring, or sometime after the winter when I can get out again and hopefully take my what I hope will be mobile Arturia cases, because it folds down rather nicely with a handle. I've also got a bag for it. Hopefully that'll go on my back on my bike, and I'll go off and be able to do all that sort of stuff. But I wanted to do that this summer and just did not find the time. Been a weird summer this summer, so I'm going to put that down for next year. We'll get right into that into the spring sometime, and hopefully by then there'll be better things will be available to make that happen. Honestly, Dickie, if you click on it, there are different colours available. There are different colours. I promise. I know. I've put, like, if I click on the purple one, for instance. Apparently, that's a woman's classic tee. Well, that's just great. But there's lots of different colours of that, which I can see over here, which you can't. But if you go, let me. Oh, look. No, look. All right, look. Hang on. Hang on. Why don't I do this? I could do this here, couldn't I? I could do a thing. I could do that. How do I? Where do I? What am I? Oh, dear. I don't know. URL. How do I copy from there to there? Let's try. Modular. Creator dash spring.com. Let's try that. No, that totally killed it. Oh no, it's there. Here we go. Okay. So yeah, like, here's my little store. Lots of lovely things you can buy on the modular spring store, which you can get to via the links at the bottom of the YouTube video. I think the purple one is a woman's tee, and when you put your mouse on it, it tries to show you the back, on which there's nothing, which is silly. So I don't know what that's about. But look, lots of different colours. Lots of different colours. There's the grey. It's a premium tee. It's decent quality. It's not. Is it tight? No. I mean, I'm usually a large, and it fits nicely. I have to say, it fits nicely. But you can go up to 3 extra large if you're a bit of a lardy. Nothing wrong with that. You get a much more for your money that way. Much more material. But I've also got what colours have I got? I've got a blue one. Not that blue though. I thought I had a more of a. I've definitely got the grey. Or have I got the green one? I thought I had a blue one. Oh well, whatever. Maybe I've got the woman's one. Who knows? Can't remember. But anyway, so there you are. There's lots of different ones on there, and there's no home. Oh yeah, there is homeware mugs. They're all the same mug. I just thought it looked nicer if I did the individual colours individually. Easier to see. These are the original paintings by Charlie Vince, who I asked to come up with a couple of ideas for me. No, they've completely vanished. That's interesting. But she did the graphics on here, which I then turned into a line drawing for the other t-shirts. Anyway, I'm going off message here anyway, but there you are. Wonderful things, terribly expensive, I'm sure, but there's a nice idea, and I like them very much, and I do wear my own things. Anyway, so there we go. That's enough of all that. I think I should probably go. It's 10:15. See, I said I wouldn't do 2 hours, and yet here I am still talking. So that's a bit silly. Good, great, right, all right. So I think that's all for now. So this week, as I say, I'm going to have a go at making a video on the Arturia stuff. I think, see how I get on with that. Hopefully, I don't get too exhausted with all of that stuff. I'm hoping it's going to be more like a normal week of work this week, whereas last week I was sort of in and out, kept falling asleep. But I'm trying to retain a bit more energy this week, which should be good. But generally, I'm doing all right, and hoping to get back into it as well. And stuff. So I'll be back on with a proper Molten Monthly at the end of November, I hope, followed up by another live stream. I don't have any plans for any live stream interviews or anything else like that at the moment. Not to say that I won't do any. I enjoy doing them. I just haven't had the time to work all those sorts of things out. But always up for that sort of thing if there's people who'd like to do that. Always up for making some music. Like I say, hopefully I can get my live rig pulled together a bit this week, at least to start working on it. And to see whether I can turn that into a bit of a playable instrument. That will be fun. That'll be fun. Then some DIY, then some other modules and bits and pieces. Loads of stuff, things to do. Yeah, cool. So thanks for stopping by. This has been the Molten Modular kind of unexpected live stream thing because I didn't have the energy to do the October edition. I hope that was vaguely interesting, sharing some thoughts on some bits and pieces. Hope perhaps you saw something you didn't see before, and that'll do. So keep on making those tunes and having a lovely time out there, and I will see you soon. Feel free to subscribe or come and join us on Patreon, that kind of thing. We're nearly at 40,000 subscribers, which is kind of nice. That's kind of nice. It's a really nice thing. So I'm enormously grateful to all the people who come along and spend some time and watch and throw in comments. I'm always up for talking nonsense in the comments and stuff. And cool, do go and take care out there as it's getting darker and icier and stuff like that. And I will love you and leave you. I'll play you out with a little bit more of the tinklies. Hang on, let me change to a different what's it. Let's go for something with a phaser, apparently. It's just really nice. Just really enjoying. Ooh. Nice. So, see you soon. Take care. If I can find the right button, I will turn all this stuff off. See you soon. Cheers.